Our forefathers didn't know that they were encountering spirits. And so when those spirits encountered them, what the spirits did was to write laws for them. Those laws are our culture now. And because we have those cultures, we are bound to worship them forever and ever until a superior priesthood comes. Every time you say thy kingdom come is a declaration of war. Because what you are trying to do is to uproot the kingdom that was to establish a new kingdom. So the point I'm making is that if we don't encounter God in light, we will encounter demons in darkness. And you know the way principalities work? When they show up, what they do is that they look, the devil can't give any gift. It's primarily a being of destruction. But what he does is that if he enters a territory, he looks out for the abilities that we have. And when he finds those abilities that we have, he begins to raise agents from among us. So those who are prophetic naturally have discernment. They can pick energies and vibrations in the spirit. And so what principalities do is when they come, they look for the prophets. And when they find those who are prophetic, they buffet all kinds of distractions to them. And as they are looking upon those things, they are finding out what their weaknesses are. And so some of them love money. Some of them love flamboyance. Some of them love women. The job of the principality is to create a system where all of these things are available. And as they give those things to them, they draw their attention from God and they begin to pursue those things. Now, when they pursue those things to a level, their appetites become bigger. And the more the appetites become big, the more of it they want. So the principality will now come for a deeper negotiation. If you want more, then you have to enter a covenant. But he started by checking their abilities. Now, those abilities are supposed to be the abilities harnessed on the altar of priesthood. But because they didn't have priesthood in light, the devil initiated priesthood in darkness. Those of us who are apostolic in nature, we are creatures of authority. One of our predominant abilities is faith. We can make declarations and break territories open. When principalities come, they will know that your weakness will be pride. So they will create a system that anchor on your pride, and you will be driven away from God because of your pride. The job of the principality is to make sure he establishes quadrants of such people. And when he has established them, these people will now give them legality to establish their dominion in the territory. Because they didn't have the original dominion. The dominion belonged to the men. They can negotiate with the men. And when they have negotiated and the clearance is given, then they begin to establish their dominion. So what happens is that when a principality finishes its job, a power now comes. What you call an addiction is not an addiction. It's the operation of a power. It binds you to that thing that has drawn you away from God. And so when a power binds you, then a ruler of darkness comes. The word ruler of darkness is Cosmos Kratos. They are mad at that time. It has become a principle that runs your life, because a ruler of darkness has come. And when they see that your job with them is over, then spiritual wickedness comes. Those are called ponerias. Their job is to afflict. So the lady began, first of all, pursuing money and going to her lottery and thinks she's doing well. After a while, she has HIV. The guy who was supposed to be a prophet thought he was making money and enjoying women. After a while, he is publicly disgraced and he dies of depression. So he can never fulfill his ordination anymore. Because if you fail, you will enter the ordinations of darkness. Meanwhile, these beings don't stop there. All of the things I've explained here is where they make agents from. Agents are the puppets of demonic spirits. They use them to fulfill their agenda. They send them all over. But amongst agents, they select a few who are specially gifted and empower them, and they are called witches and wizards. A witch is a being that has a man or a woman that have the power to cast spells. So when a principality comes to Zambia, for example, and discover their prophets here, he will have many agents here that pursue immorality, pursue flamboyant things. When he's using them, he will now raise some of them to become witches. Those witches will cast spells into the atmosphere so that those things will thrive. So you will not know why a move of faith, false prophets will begin. You will not know why a move of seduction begin. Some have become casters of spells, and he won't stop there. He will raise some to become warlocks. You know, those of you who watch medieval movies, you will see how kingdoms are formed. They are formed through sorcery. Most nations, including some of the leading nations of the... How many of you have watched Merlin? How many of you have watched Merlin? You see that the prince thinks it's his bow and arrow that is winning battle. He didn't know that the young man who was following him was the warlock. When he meets the dragon, he addresses him as young warlock. The guy has the power to cast spell. He has the power to create victory, even where there is no victory. So that at the end of the day, they will achieve Albion, a territory where sorcery and witchcraft will be allowed to be practiced free of charge. That's their goal. So the reason they are preserving the life of the prince is to achieve Albion. That's how territories are formed in darkness, if the priesthood of light is not established. And some will grow from warlocks to become sages. A sage is a teacher in darkness. Those ones have the power to impart those abilities. So our fathers here will tell you that those days somebody can come to you and say, cut a grass and give me. If you give him, he will say some things, rub his hand on you, and scorpion will never sting you again. He has the power to transfer demonic powers. So he has now been trained in darkness. That's how these people influence what you call the marketplace. That's how they influence what you call government. So the reason most you go to certain nations, the foundation of governance is corruption, is because some sages and warlocks spoke it into the foundation. So even if a good man comes to leadership, that power will bend his will, because it was rooted as a heritage of that territory. You now go to another territory, they are very innovative. Like where we came from in the Middle East, you see wisdom, you see excellence, and you say, how come these people are like this? You think this is the best. You now go under, you see oppression and violence. What gives them joy is to spill blood. And so anywhere they go to, blood is spilled like water. You go to another territory, you say these are scientifically inclined, they are learned people. Why is Africa not like this? You now discover that there is perversion and immorality. So what they teach them is that sex is exercise, and it ruins the souls of people. So on one side, you see poverty and backwardness. On another side, although there is excellence, but you see violence. On another side, although there is scientific inclinations, intelligence, but you see corruption, you see lawlessness, you see immorality. The signatures are different depending on the laws that are written. So before you go to those territories, you must have a priesthood in light that can uproot those foundations. Otherwise, you can go to America and be a successful businessman, but you'll be an immoral person. Because the priesthood does not negate financial prosperity, but it negates purity of the soul. And so you are excelling, but a point comes, you become godless. And if you are there for 5 years, you will start wondering, what do I need God for? Because the system, the law that is written in that atmosphere is that the higher you go, the more irrelevant God is to you. And you will not know what is happening. And then you are insulting those in Africa. You say they are backward. See how poor they are. You don't know what is going on. A point will come when, if you are there for 15 years, you will not even know how to say Jesus is Lord, because something has gone wrong with your soul. In fact, a point will come, you start feeling, you say, I love a man. And they say, what do you mean? You say, that's how I feel. I live by how I feel. And you see a man say he loves a man. He didn't know that he's a victim of the demonic priesthood. Meanwhile, there's a lot of advancement in civilization, but the heart is dark. And then you come to this side of Africa. You are highly religious. You are praying. You are fasting. But you are irrelevant in the marketplace, because you don't have the intelligence to contend there. And even those who are in your government, corruption eats their soul up. The money that belongs to the nation, 5 people share it, and they think wisdom is to go to Dubai and sleep in 5-star hotel. So they are backward mentally because of demonic intelligence. You go to the Middle East, you say, this excellence is out of this world. But you see the sword everywhere. Cutting people's head is wisdom. And they think that is how to live your life if you are relevant, if you are wise. All of those things are codes written into different territories, because civilizations are formed from the roots of darkness. And so when God is calling us into priesthood, is to revamp the foundation of civilization. It's not just to succeed in business, it's to change the laws in the marketplace. It's not just to succeed in government, it's to change the laws in the government. So when a man who carries a priesthood enters the government, he will not just rule well and bring advancement in civilization, he will change the laws. And a day will come when this same government that if you don't involve in corruption you will not win will change. The order will change, because a new priesthood has been established. So beyond having a president that is interested in education and interested in developing the people, you need a president that has the power to change the code, so that when another political dispensation comes, what it takes to go into that office would have changed. The people who have money to bribe, they will say, keep your money, we don't need it. We need a righteous man. When you see tough things happening, know that a new priesthood has come. Because it's no longer about money during election anymore. What is your manifesto? What is your plan for the people? People start thinking differently because the atmosphere has changed. But you see, for us to ascend to that height, there's a protocol. You know, most of us don't know what we are contending with. Sir, what we are fighting is an age-long darkness. The foundation is deep. This is why Sunday morning Christianity can't help it. We are interested in a large auditorium. So people gather. We are running 5 services and we teach for 30 minutes. Is it a teaching of 30 minutes that will raise men who can change the corruption in the market? Is this a teaching of 30 minutes that will raise men who can change the foundation of government? No, that's not the pattern the apostles brought. They knew how deep darkness was. So they needed to sit with them, to cook them before they ascend. Before you go to, see, there are certain men in government that if they tell you to do corruption, you will not have the guts to say no. Because of the weight of darkness they bring to you. You know if you say no, you are doomed. Unless you have something superior to what they carry, for you to look at them in the eye. Do you think it was a joke when Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, we will not bow? If you collide with a king of Babylon, you dare not say no. Before you can look at that king in the face and say, I will not, you must have something that is more ranking than his priesthood. And the problem we have is that we have not raised men who have priesthood in light. We bring them to church from January to December and we are prophesying breakthrough. This week is your week. Next week you will prosper. It's a joke. The moment they enter the marketplace, they are swept off. Even most of us who are succeeding, we are succeeding on the plane of compromise. When you check, somebody testifies, I just bought a new land. I started a new oil business. Go and check. Most of the transactions are full of compromise. You have few men who are wielding the scepter of righteousness because we don't know that our kingship functions to the degree of the efficacy of our priesthood.
Thank you.